Hi guys, welcome back to our Globe interviews. This is Starlight here, and today we have James Babarinde for today's episode. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so first, can you share with us your background and what kind of opportunity that you brought you into the blockchain?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, I've always been interested in technology in general. Um, I have an artistic background, so uh, with my design practice, I would always find ways that technology can merge with design in order to create a novel experience. And I actually stumbled upon blockchain from learning about the payments network. Um, I was looking at how payment can be sped up and alleviate all the insane fees that we have today within cross-border payments. And as I was looking at the ledger technology, how it works, mainly in XRP also and XLM, those types of networks, seeing how payments can be sent literally with seconds, which is a stark contrast from how long we have to wait when sending it traditionally. Like if you had to go send money abroad to a family member or so, it could take 3 to 4 days for the transaction. Some banks have something set up where they accept the payment beforehand and process later. But with the blockchain, it happens almost instantaneously. So it was fascinating to me, and I continued to dive into the space and ended up in with NFTs. And as a designer with who was trained classically also as an illustrator, it was super interesting to me to see the avenues illustrators can now have to prove that their work is theirs and also have direct access to their audience.
Let's talk about your website, Novastack. Can you tell us what the Novastack stands for and what service does your website offer?
Sure. Novastack has an interesting name. It started when I was in my college days with one of my friends. So I actually took about a year and a bit off of college. I was studying a BA of illustration at the time, and I did about a 1.5 year contract at IBM. Now, when I was at IBM, I was thrown into this world of engineering, which is something I wasn't used to. And I made a lot of friends, one in particular where we used to meet and just try to learn from each other and make some cool stuff. Over time, we got pretty good at it, and we were like, "Hey, let's see if we can pitch some of this work." And we're like, "What would we call ourselves?" Because we also needed for formalities to have businesses in place. So at the time, we created a partnership, and we were like, what can represent novelty and also represent engineering? Because I was from the design side, he was from the tech side. We're like, let's also try to make a play for that. So it's like Nova, which is like a new star kind of thing, and then stack, which is a term familiar with engineering when you think of like dev stack, for example. So like let's put these two things together. So it's a true representation of design, novelty meeting engineering. So you get like novel engineering, because we were already working on those types of technology anyway. So that's how the name came together. And we did a few projects. We did a blockchain project really early on in about 2015. It was based on trying to index the highest traders per week, per month, and kind of gamifying it. We also did a few other products for some clients. One was with York University here in Canada, where we automated one of their booking systems. And then from there, he actually went back to IBM, but I continued to consult. And as a result, I ended up in this world of augmented reality. And with augmented reality, if you remember back in like 2016, it was super early days. It was a lot of exciting things. If you think about the company Magic Leap, they were showcasing some really cool stuff, and HoloLens was also around by Microsoft at the time. So it was a wearable. You wear these glasses and you can see uh, virtual content. And through that, I had to incorporate Novastack as a company in order to work with bigger clients. And I did an augmented reality project for IBM because I kept the contact. And a lot of that just forced the formalities of the company Novastack. And I've continued to consult through that today.
What's your initial motivation that you decided to build this platform?
Yeah, I mean, it was born out of pure passion because we used to meet and be like, hey, let's make something cool. I remember I was really into 3JS, which is 3D imagery on your computer screen. So if you go on your web browser, not needing to download anything to your desktop, you can navigate a 3D object or environment and have that render on your web browser. And that was super cool to me. And we were also, again, looking at blockchain technology and just how cryptography works. And in those early days, it was still a little bit of the wild, wild west. Ethereum was still making its way to gain some legitimacy, I would say, because I think it had gone through a couple of hacks. But we were interested in the space nonetheless. Like with any new technology, there will be some growing pains for some time. But we saw the fundamentals were exciting. So that's what made us build in that space.
It's really cool. Like people from different industry, they all dive into blockchain and they have a work or projects to make in blockchain. This is like amazing.
I totally agree. You see so much diverse projects now within blockchain. I think even recently, one you don't necessarily think of, I think VeChain was doing something with vaccines where they were helping to track them as they were being transported and tracking the temperature, making sure that they remain stable. And that was very interesting. If you're not familiar with VeChain, they essentially focus within the supply chain industry. So validating parts and things like that. They have a few big partners. I think they do some automotive work where I think with BMW, they track their parts across the supply chain just to validate. And they have another big partnership with a major retailer in the Asia region. So it's really cool, that work that they're doing. It's very much under the surface, but it's very important work.
I know in one of your NFT collections called Eth Rebirth, and in this work, you take our essence into the metaverse and being reborn on the blockchain. So what is your inspiration and what inspire you for your this kind of work?
Yeah, that one is I like that project. It's a little bit personal for me. I started experimenting with 3D imagery and of likeness a while back. So combining different scanning technologies to create something artistic. Because when you think about art, there's always this question, is like, what is it trying to say? Especially if you are representing something realistically. You get into that age-old question, it's like, art for art's sake, like, and all that means is, are you creating this to tell a story? Is it about the piece itself, or are you just trying to recreate what's in reality? And because I was scanning, that question was even more apparent. Why scan someone when you can just show a picture of the person? So I try to put an expressive theme on top of it and try to capture people's personality in their in the poses that I have in there. So it's actually been a multi-year project that wasn't necessarily tied to the blockchain initially. But because I was trying to bring out people's essence through a static frozen image of them, from a scan and then enhancing it in 3D. I was like, well, I'm already kind of rebirthing them through this process. And as I was being connected more with or learning more about blockchain, I was like, what if I put this on the blockchain? Now they're going through another sort of rebirth. And in it being, if it's on an Ethereum network, it's almost like you're going through an ETH rebirth. So it ties back all the way to me trying to capture their personality in the poses that I have them in the 3D image.
I know you are not only a self-employed designer, but you are also a designer who work in the Microsoft. Can you share with us like what it's like to work at a Microsoft? How's the environment there, and how's the people there? Like any fun story you can share?
Any fun story I could share?
Or
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, I have one fun story. Recently, I actually went to the office. Have been transitioning back. We're all still largely remote, but I I work on design systems for the Teams app, Microsoft Teams.
Mhm.
And what design systems entails is you're creating an efficient way for engineers and designers to work, and leverage reusable components so that uh, production can stay efficient and scalable. Also across devices. I primarily focus on mobile. So recently I've been going back to the office, and unexpectedly I found that we had a maker space, a garage space. And what this is it's basically a workstation or a workshop where you go in and you can do some 3D printing, you can print on shirts, you can have some fun with VR experiences, maybe play some games here and there, or try to create something for it. And there's also a little bit of mechanical engineering there that they help you with as well. And even if you want to get into things like learning how to operate and configure a drone with a Raspberry Pi, there are people there that kind of help you do this. For me, when I went in, I was like, I need to get involved because I've always had this kind of inclination to want to make things, and I was already working on some branding initiatives, and I was like, it would be cool if I make a T-shirt and send it to my team, kind of like a branded T-shirt. So I ended up doing that. It was people were really liked the shirt. I think just anytime you get gear, like you're happy,
Yeah.
like inside of a company. So it was cool that it was very personalized for our team. So that was a cool experience. They taught me the whole process, how to print it, how to put it directly on the shirt with an iron press. And it was something nice outside of my day to day that was still creative, and I enjoyed it. The workload can be fairly high, but they do encourage a lot of work-life balance, hence the makerspace. And they also give us some time to just take out of our day to day and learn. They'll give us a week to just try to
Yeah.
learn something and maybe improve a certain process or come up with a prototype. It's kind of like a hackathon. A lot of companies have that also, but I I enjoy my current work life balance, and it's fun to see some of the initiatives going on. Like if you've been in tune with the media over the last little while, there we acquired Activision, and that's going to lead into like all these other metaverse opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see how a player like Microsoft comes into that metaverse space.
You called yourself a daytime designer and nighttime painter. How do you manage your time? And like, how can you just maintain a balance between these two positions?
um, well, it's I find painting as like something I do for fun. So it helps me keep my design mind fresh, because if you do one thing, um too long, too often, and you're just kind of tunnel vision in this area, it's hard to stay creative.
Yeah.
um so I try to gather as much inspiration from elsewhere,
Mm-hmm.
just to, yeah, just to keep my mind fresh. So in the daytime, I'll design with my work, and in the nighttime I'll do some painting or something totally different, which is why I also, again, really appreciate that maker space in the office, because you can do something different and just use different parts of your brain that relaxes you and resets your thinking a little bit. Any hobby, like I'm sure you have some as well.
Yeah.
um when things kind of went indoors, I couldn't do a lot of my other hobbies, like soccer, for example. I used to
Mm-hmm.
play a lot of that because growing up in England and everything. I also used to play a lot of ping pong, and
Ping pong.
yeah, I can't go back to the clubs now because it's still a little
Yeah.
bit shaky. So painting is what I'm lucky I can still do,
Mm-hmm.
while being in this setting.
Especially in the COVID,
Yeah,
during the
yeah,
COVID, can't
yeah,
do.
that's right.
Yeah.
You seem to have an interest in ping pong.
Well, like as a Chinese, I supposed to love ping pong, but actually I don't know how to play ping pong at all.
Oh, I see. No, that's fine. I mean, it's just what you're into. I started playing back in England, and it's actually one of the things that's been consistent at every company I've been. They they've, well, not every, but I
Most
would
of
say
them.
about 80% of them have had a ping pong table, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's a great way to socialize, make some friends, and um, also compete. They'll have tournaments here from time to time, and I think my funnest time was when we were playing doubles, and I got to the final of the tournament with my partner, and they set up a theater in the company where people came to watch, and it was really cool atmosphere. It was when I was at a company called Achievers. Achievers, it's like an employee recognition software. So let's say you have a coworker, they helped you out with something, you can send them a message and be like, hey, thank you for your help on this thing. And when they receive that message, they'll get some points also that they can then redeem later on in a marketplace.
There are still many people who think NFTs are just a crypto Ponzi scheme. What do you think about this point?
Yeah, it's interesting. I can understand that perspective. I think when you look at crypto NFTs in general, it's a new
Mm-hmm.
technology.
Yeah.
And with any new technology, like I was mentioning before, there will be, there'll be a lot of doubt, there'll be a lot of fear for adoption, and it's really disrupting the industry at the moment when you think about blockchain in general,
Yeah.
especially within that payment space. Um, when you think about like a Ponzi scheme, even like the term itself, uh, it came from the person Ponzi. And back in his day, he had a lot of interesting ideas, and he grew up as a Italian aristocrat. And as a result, by the time he came around within his family, they had kind of ran out of that. That they'd essentially run out of money at that point. But he grew up with a mother who was kind of instilling in him that he's gonna be the one to restore the family back to their heights of aristocracy. And as a result, the family kind of invested a whole lot into him. He used they helped him get to school, essentially to university, and from there he went abroad to America. And he was, because of this upbringing, that he was going to restore the family back to their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
He would try a lot of ideas over his lifetime, and a lot of them required funding. And you can imagine, because his family didn't have the money at the time, he needed people to believe in what he was doing. So he would create all of these projects and try to get funding from people. And because the ideas didn't work. Sometimes they were not necessarily bad ideas. It's debatable whether he had bad intentions, but um, because the ideas didn't work, it was seen as a scam in the end because
Yeah.
he did it a few times. But he always believed in his ideas personally. One time, one of his ideas even got out. He was out competed by a larger company who did the same idea as him. I think it was to bring electricity to the coal mines, and yeah, so he became known as this person doing schemes within
Mhm.
crypto. It's definitely a lot more. There's a lot more malice in it. People will intentionally create projects and rug pull, which is a common term within crypto. Basically, you start a project, you get a lot of people to buy into your project, and you remove the rug from under their feet. So you take the earnings and you kind of just leave the community with nothing, basically. So it's fairly rampant. However, I would say there's also a lot of good coming out of the industry. Um, there are more chains now, like for example, Flare networks that are working on eco-friendly blockchain consensus. So it's not relying on you mining in order to achieve consensus. It's using a different method, which is a lot more eco-friendly. Um, and that's then being powered for other NFTs. So, for example, one of the communities I'm a part of is called Sparkle's NFT, and we're trying to build a marketplace on the Flare network, and it's we're very conscious of our carbon footprint, uh, and through the Flare networks, we've been able to build this place where people can buy us and sell at a very cost efficient rate. And we're also very conscious of who sells on our platform. So we're doing things like verification, a lot of monitoring, making sure that projects are legitimate. Um, and then also when you start to come outside of NFTs, traditionally with images, we are also reaching out to people who are doing some really cool stuff with AI. So generating sound, for example, and associating unique imagery to that. And just to show people a different perspective of how crypto and NFTs can work with real life initiatives, such as machine learning research. So it can get very, very interesting. And what I would say is for people to do the research on projects that they are participating in.
Mhm.
I treat it, if I look at it from an investment point of view, I treat it like stock. And I would say if I want to invest in a company, I would like to know what the company does, who the founders are,
Yeah.
what they're supporting. And through that, you can find your way fairly quickly, and avoid, a lot of these scams that are going on.
What can we expect to see from the metaverse in the future?
I think there'll be a lot of exciting things in the future. One of the things that had me really launch that Eth Rebirth is I wanted to get a test feel for how it's going to be to, start interacting with the community, because I'm planning to actually release a much larger project,
Mhm.
a generative NFT project that's going to be based on avatars in the metaverse and also transportation services within the metaverse.
Wow.
So I've seen a lot of interesting things here at Microsoft. Like I mentioned, the acquisition of Activision, who make Call of Duty and all these other games. And with that infrastructure, they're in a really prime place to create an epic metaverse, if you will. Same thing with Epic Games, no pun intended. They're also thinking about making a metaverse with Unreal Engine, and that's going to be mind blowing. So, as a content creator and
Mhm.
someone who's interested in 3D imagery and representation, I'm super excited for these platforms to allow creators like myself to participate and bring the community along also, where they can, get their essence into the metaverse. And those are some of the projects that I'm working on over the next few months that I'll put out.
Yeah, it's like it's getting excited if there are a lot of people, a lot like creatives get involved in the future. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. And you're
yeah.
also starting to see companies get involved where they're creating like virtual billboards and advertising.
Mhm.
Advertising is starting to go into like gaming space now. If you've been seeing some of the news lately, so having in-game advertising, whether that's product placement or like in-game billboards. So it's gonna have a larger ecosystem that will be driven not only by like content creators, you and I, not only by people playing, but also by these larger industries bringing that whole advertising ecosystem into it. And it's only gonna have traction build up from there.
Do you have any advice for the artists or the creatives looking into the NFT industry?
Yeah, totally. I would say, do some research on blockchain in general,
Yeah.
because the technology itself is really cool. It's
Mhm.
given artists a way to verify their work and have direct access to their audience, which is something that is fairly unique that we haven't really had in that capacity before. We've always had this issue of counterfeit art, but through building yourself in the digital space, giving yourself a digital footprint, publish some articles here and there so that when people look you up, they can understand that you are a real person creating real art with real interest, and that you'll continue to support your project. That's the big difference with um, projects that are less known or harder to get into, because there's not a lot other than just the NFT to see. So by publishing articles, joining communities, you'll build this digital footprint, and through an understanding of blockchain, you'll also understand which networks to release your art on. So, like I
Yeah.
mentioned with Sparkle's NFT, uh, we are building on a Flare networks, which is very eco-friendly. And through this initiatives, you can also think about how you can release your project on eco-friendly marketplaces like that.
Yeah, that's perfect. So what is your goal for next 2 years? Like anything you want to achieve?
Yeah, so for the next 2 years, I'm super excited to finish Sparkle's NFT 2.0, which
Mhm.
will be uh, the release will coincide with the Flare Network's launch. And like I mentioned, it's super eco-friendly, and it's going to give people a much more cost-efficient way to drop NFTs and also just trade and uh, have fun with collections. We're really bringing down the gas fees on there. So it's once it's out, as a content creator myself looking to release projects, I'll definitely be using that platform personally. And also some of the metaverse projects that I want to do. I'm so inspired to see the work from large enterprise like Microsoft getting into the metaverse, like
Mhm.
Epic Games thinking about building a platform for creators. And my work will be largely focused around that to bring the community along in the same vein as I release Eth Rebirth, where you're bringing your essence into the metaverse. It's going to be largely around that. So I'm dedicating a fair amount of time within the next 2 years, starting in a few months to release things like that.
Wow, that's so excited.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. It's still early days, but I think as it starts to get a bit more normal, uh it'll be fun to see where it goes outside of, you know, just gaming. Or I'm sure somewhere down the line we'll all be shopping with our virtual selves in a virtual environment somewhere, trying on clothes.
But after you achieve this goal, the things you talk about, so it's gonna be like kind of like a milestones for you guys, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the next few months are gonna be pretty big for me. I think over time, after 2 years, I want to continue supporting this project in a way where uh, community members that I connect with, I continue giving them content in a valuable way. If you think of product design, for example, one of the things that I'm bringing from my experience as a product designer is a way to support the user over a long period of time, um, in real ways that provide value. So if you think of, let's say, Amazon Prime as a product, they later released Amazon Prime movies, right? So it's like you're already part of their community, but now you can watch movies. And
Yeah.
then they release Prime Music and so on. So they're continuing to support their community through this lens. And I intend to bring much of the same to that NFT project, even with like Microsoft, with the product I'm on now, Teams. Uh, when you had Office 365, you got Teams as a benefit because you had an Office 365 account, and that's just another value prop that you can introduce to your community that are already a part of your ecosystem. So post 2 years, there'll be a ton of stuff that I can continue supporting the community with.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. If you like the content, please like the video, leave your comment, and subscribe our channel as well. Thank you, James, for coming to our show today. And it's really nice to speak with you today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me.